Good morning, Remy.
Good morning, Breck.
How's it going this morning?
It's going. It's a little rough this morning. Not as rough as you since you're in your truck at the library again, but it's a little rough this morning.
With it running because it's 32 degrees.
I think we're still going to be over 100 today, so yeah, it's not even cold yet in the morning.
I I laugh every time I look at that picture of us. That folks was taken on the same day at the same time. So just shows you how different our worlds actually are.
Although I was colder than you for like 3 mornings last week, but only for like in the morning for a little bit.
I still win when it comes to cold, Remy.
Fall peeped its head out here, and then it ran away, and so we're back
Yeah.
to 100+ degree weather.
I'm afraid that fall is going to go away and winter is going to peek its head out here. It gets real scary real fast.
I'm ready for it to really be spooky season with hoodies and sweatshirts and hot chocolate. So,
Speaking of spooky season, your sweatshirts dropped
last
on Friday.
week, yes, and so I got some orders shipped out, and we will have some more stuff coming up for next month available for all of you nice supporters of Coffee with the Cowgirls.
Remy is super talented when it comes to drawing. Well, multiple things, but she actually drew that logo on the Booze and Brews sweatshirt. If I did it, it would look like a kindergartner did. She's very talented.
Thank you.
Weekly recap. You just spent yesterday at the most magical place in the world.
I did. Well, I was on Monday. I went to the House of Mouse, and then yesterday we had lessons in the morning, and then went and picked. I know it was because we were supposed to do this on Tuesday, but I texted Breck and said at 2:00 in the morning, I said, I just got home from Disneyland. I am not getting up for you in 2 hours, so I will see you the next day. And then yesterday I had lessons in the morning. And then we went and fixed fence and caught some bulls and ended the night by watching James team rope. So that's where I'm at today.
Nice.
So I still got home late last night, but at least,
It was better than 2:00.
Much better than 2:00. And much better than 2:00 after walking around all day in a theme park.
I can't even remember what I did this weekend. Oh, I do know. I had everyday cowgirl camp on Saturday. And it was a small group, but it was really good. And I have had a ton of young girls this year, Remy, that are learning how to ride, that know how to ride and just trying to get better. But that's been a lot of fun for me because I do love to give kid lessons. So I've had a big opportunity this summer to work with a lot of kids.
Oh, that's fun. Did you have any more mother-daughter pairs this weekend?
I had one. And the other one was mother-daughter, and then the one her dad brought her, which do these kids, I don't think my kids understand. Your kids don't either because they live the life. Let's just be honest. Our kids live the life, so they don't understand. But do these kids understand? Especially, I feel like those kids, because they don't do the life, that their parents are putting in the time and effort to feed their passions on a very expensive hobby. And they're taking time out of their days, weekends, to support their passion. I think it's so cool. I thought about that multiple times. Like, how cool is that?
No, that's like even with our boys. I'm like, they're like, oh, I'm bored. I don't have anything to do. I was like,
oh boy,
there's a lot of stuff you could do.
I hear you. Ours are the same. Remy, I do have to say I was so proud of myself on Sunday night. I meal prepped for the first time in my life. One time I've meal prepped and I love it.
Have you made it all the way through the week yet? Because like I'm really good at doing the meal prep, and I get halfway through the week and I'm like, I don't want to eat. I'm not the same person I was when I decided to eat these things.
Well, actually, I'm leaving tonight, so that's up to the boys to decide if they want to eat it. I don't really care.
You're like, but I did it. I did the things.
Oh
I
my
did all of it.
gosh. Okay, I thought that the people who did that were stinking crazy because who has that time to do that? But actually, folks, I am not this person. So the fact that I did this, but I think why I did it is because I had everything that I was going to make was unthawed in the refrigerator. And Brandon and I had a day date on Saturday or Sunday. I'm sorry, Sunday, because life has been just so crazy. We haven't seen each other. So I'm like, let's go on a day date. And we went out for late lunch, early supper at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, when you come home at 5:30 at night and you've already eaten for the evening, you're done with chores. What else do you do? So I made meatloaf. Do you know what meatloaf is, Remy? That's probably not
I
something
know
that's
what
made.
meatloaf is.
Okay, well, I didn't know if that was a
My
Midwest
mom
thing.
actually makes delicious ham loaf, which is very similar to meatloaf.
I've
It
had
is
that.
so good, and she makes it with scalloped potatoes, and it's amazing. So
Same. It's one of my favorite fall meals. So I made that. I made shredded pork, pulled pork. I made egg bake. I made taco meat, and I made something else. I mean,
and I made something else I'm not gonna eat because I'm gone, but I made something else.
yeah. I mean, no one is starving at my house this week, and I don't have to decide what the hell we're eating at night. I I'm thinking I might do a Sunday day date every week. It's
Yeah.
working well.
Well,
One
I mean,
week
that's better.
in.
That's it's I think it's the meal prep when I like make like the same thing for like 5 days, and I'm like, I'm gonna like really eat a lot of chicken and green beans, and then I'm like, ugh, not this again.
It is so hard. Like, I don't feel like I can be the only one that I just run out of ideas of what to make. I feel like we just constantly eat the same thing week in and week out.
We do,
Tacos.
yeah, like we do too to a point, but part of it's because we just like the same thing. So we have like, uh, I say that because like James doesn't like potatoes, right?
What?
So yeah, I know it's like very disappointing, and I can't eat potatoes right now, so it's better for me. But James doesn't like potatoes, so if I
Who
make potato,
doesn't like potatoes? Like, he doesn't even like French fries?
nah, he likes French fries, but he grew up like and like they just didn't season their potatoes, so he just thinks of everything as like a boiled potato, and you're like, but look at these like awesome mashed potatoes with cheese and garlic in them and bacon.
I
Like,
feel like James might have grown up in Iowa because they don't season anything there. Like,
and so, but he really likes like so we eat a lot of sticky rice, like the Japanese sticky rice. So we make I make rosemary chicken. So it's like rosemary, it's like chicken breast, pan fried in a cast iron skillet and then baked with garlic and shallots and rosemary and then white rice and salad. The other thing too is like we have fresh fruits and vegetables all the time, so we don't make a lot of stuff ahead of time because we cook it right away. Like
yeah,
we
you are like on a way healthier level than this Midwest mama is. So,
But it
no.
again, but it's like availability, right? So it's like, oh, you know what sounds really good tonight? Like steak and asparagus. Well, like when we go, it's like this fresh bundle of asparagus and it's great. Like you throw it in the oven just to kind of warm it and make it a little bit softer, but it's all super fresh. We also just don't have canned food because we go to the market every other day, which is probably not great, but this is how we live our life.
We don't have that. No. I mean, really mixing it up for us is like throwing in a Canadian bacon Jack's pizza because pepperoni is usually the one that we eat. So,
Also, my kids are spoiled. They only eat like tri-tip and filet as far as meat. And like then I try and feed them cheaper cuts, and they're like, "This is not very good." So,
oh gosh, they're little divas, Remy.
but I cannot wait for crock pot season because I do make a lot of stuff in the crock pot and the Instapot when it gets colder. But like again, it's the weather, right? When it's 100 degrees, you don't want to, you don't want a heavy meal. You're like, I'm gonna barbecue something and have a fresh side. Like we do street tacos a lot, so we like cook carne asada or chicken on the barbecue and you chop it up and then you have it on little small corn tortillas with fresh onion and cilantro. But again, it's because everything's fresh and available. It's like That's not, I mean, that's what we have. Like, this is what we have.
I'm laughing because she sounds so fancy. I am so not.
But again, when it's 100 degrees, you're like, I need a protein. I need something to eat it on. That's cool. And that's why we eat a lot of, like, we eat a lot of salad, like a lot of salad. And so it switches between
I eat a lot of
Caesar salad, salad with ranch, and then caprese, which you said you ate the other day, and it's delicious, isn't it?
I don't even know how to say it, but caprese is my new favorite. I love it. I mean, I don't feel like I probably eat it like you do because I definitely just slice up like 2 tomatoes on a plate, and then I slice up the whole thing of mozzarella cheese, the roll thing, and then pour that stuff over it, and I can eat it all day. I love it. It's so good.
We do I have basil on my kitchen sink, so we do the little mozzarella balls, the pearls of mozzarella with basil leaves chopped, and then I slice grape tomatoes and olive oil, and then balsamic vinegar on top of it. So
it's so good. Before I forget, I wanted to say this. Now, you know that because you like them too, but I'm so obsessed, and they've had so much funny content out there lately. And I feel like I would be doing our viewers a disservice if I didn't tell them about these women. So if you have not heard of Cat and Nat on social media, they're on all the platforms: TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. What else am I missing, Remy? They have a podcast.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
They started off with a Mom Truth Fridays in their car.
My God.
After drop off, they're hilarious. I think they're hilarious. I think they're amazing.
I just can't even with them. They are so funny. They're extremely inappropriate. So if you don't like that kind of humor, you probably should look them up. But I love inappropriate humor, and I find myself watching them for way longer than I should every day, just because they are so truthful. And it's like the stuff that comes out of their mouth. Oh my God. Brandon found them, and he found the one about date night, and he just sets my phone in front of me, and he's like, watch this. And I'm like, oh no, now you're watching Cat and Nat too? Great.
No, James James sends me clips from them all the time. He likes them too.
So if you haven't heard of them, go check them out. They're hilarious. So moving on, it is a big week for me this week. I leave tonight for Top Hand Cowgirl. I know it's a packed house. I don't know. We'll talk about it more next week, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Lots of fun. We should probably, since we're already 12 minutes in and we've only talked about food and Cat and Nat, we should probably talk about what we're going to talk about today. Right. So welcome to Coffee with the Cowgirls. I'm Breck Kruger.
And I'm Remy Greer.
This morning we are going to talk about finding the fun again in riding. What to do when you lose it. I know a lot of horsewomen, and I would say the majority of the horsewomen that I know, Remy, at some point in their life have lost their want, the love of riding. It comes back, but I would say that at some point, the majority of the ones I know have.
I think the burnout is real in a lot of things, not just horses. And so if you're listening and you don't ride horses, a lot of this will apply to whatever passion you have.
Phases of life, yeah.
But the burnout is real, especially with expensive hobbies, because if you're not having fun and it costs you a lot of money, and there's an animal that you have to feed every day
and take care of,
it can drain you.
As a lifelong cowgirl, have you been to the place where you're like, I just don't want to do this anymore?
Yeah, I think the hard part for me is, and I was actually just talking to someone yesterday, like we're probably not going to our national finals for a sport. I say that, but then yesterday James was like, well, maybe we'll go. Because
you're still undecided.
We are. Like, okay. The thing is, people always think we're being cagey about when we're going to go to a show. And I was like, it's not that. It's honestly, we don't decide most of the time until the week before.
Okay, but though here is the reason why too, folks, because we are like that too, and everybody, even my girlfriends, they're like, "Oh, Breck, just tell us what you're gonna do." Here's the deal, guys. I've got a barn full of horses. I've got 2 kids that are now in school, one in sports. I mean, some of you guys have multiple kids in sports. We can't, like, we can't all be gone because the kids still have to be doing their thing. We can't be pulling them out all the time. And this is our lifestyle. But one of us has to stay home, and it's generally me. And I'm not bitching about it. But
No,
that's how it is.
It's like James said yesterday, I think he's going to go to our regional finals. And I said, take Braden, I'll stay home. Because we have a lot of, like, I've talked about it on here. We bought some cows south of us with a partner. We're almost through calving season, but not completely. Someone has to be here.
Yes.
And it's like, so, people think we're being cagey. I'm not being cagey. We really don't know. And then we change our mind, which we're allowed to do. But I was talking to someone about the national finals. I was like, I'm just kind of burnt out because I'm gone for us for that. We're gone for like 12 days out of our life. My boys don't want to go this year because we haven't been home for Halloween in 5 or 6 years. And like, I love Halloween. My kids love Halloween. And as much as the USTPA does to replicate it, it's not the same as going, like, wearing your costume to school. Yeah.
And then fun things. Yeah.
And they're doing a great job, but it's not the same. It's not the same, as going and seeing all the haunted houses. So my boys really want to be home, but my one that was really making the push to stay home now wants to go to finals. So again, that may change what we're doing, but for me, I get burnt out. And honestly, it's not so much with horses that I get burnt out. It's the peopling that's involved with the horses. Because like I feel like I've been lucky to never have really been burnt out with the animals. And I say that because I know plenty of horse trainers that are like, they get on that horse and it's just a machine. That's all it is. Right. It's like starting up a tractor or driving a truck for them. And I've been lucky to never have that happen, but I know what happens to people because I still really like the animal. Just like I love cattle, but I don't always enjoy all the stuff that goes along with horses that have nothing to do with the animal.
Well, I have been at the point in my life where I was like, you know what? I just no longer want to do this. And for me, it came after having kids. I think that what happened was just like I said about we're gone pretty much every weekend or somebody is gone. But then in the back of my mind, I'm like, now I have to find somebody to do chores. I have to find somebody to watch the kids. I have to find, even like when they were little, if I would go, I did used to set them up in like expandable dog pens at the horse shows. So there was that, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's easier to stay home.
I just found myself there. The other thing too with competing is mentally, and I don't ride as well when my boys are there because you're always thinking. And now that they're getting a little bit older, like it was really apparent for me in Reno this year, because my littlest one is now 4. I'm not thinking like he's gonna fall in the arena, he's gonna wander off. Not that they won't do those things, but at least they're gonna be a little more aware of if they do it. It's not gonna just be this huge accident. But I think your life changes too. Like, again, I've said it on here. Like, we used to be mercenaries. It was nothing for us to hit 3 shows in a weekend and drive from Texas back to California to Nevada. And I just don't want to anymore. Like, what do I have left to prove? I mean, like, as far as competition, that's how I feel. It's like, I can't prove I'm any better or any worse than I am. You either like what I have to offer or you don't like what I have to offer. But me going and winning isn't going to change that for very many people.
Well, I am a little different than Remy because it is not like I don't know how to say it, like, I'm okay with just going to a couple shows a month or something like that, or even one. And I don't necessarily have to go to the biggest shows. I just love to ride my horse. So for me, it's not like from a why I'd want to do it is not from a competition standpoint. It's more or less for myself. But I do understand the kid thing because well, I only have two and you have four and James. So I have two and Brandon. And I feel like they're always, and maybe not always, maybe I am dramatic about that. That's probably more or less the case. I'm dramatic about it. But when they need something, who do they go to?
Yeah.
All three of them.
Yeah, you're the default parent for everything. And it's and for us, like, we travel with a lot of clients too. So not only am I managing my children's emotions and my husband's competition, and now I have a flock of half rabid squirrels behind me. So, I got
and that does get emotionally, like Remy and I talk about that often because we both love giving lessons, but after a full day of lessons, and it's taken Brandon a long time to understand this, like, I really don't want to be touched. I don't want to be looked at. I want to sit by myself somewhere and not hear anything for a while because it's really mentally, it is I think it's tiring because you're when you love it, your brain goes a million miles an hour on what you should say to help these people get better, help them to the next step in their writing. So you're constantly thinking and your brain just gets really tired after it's done and you just want to be like by yourself.
It is. It's if you give a lot to whatever you do, right? And same thing with like just teachers in general, right? If you give a lot to what you're doing, it's mentally exhausting and draining. It's like James goes to the cow sale every Wednesday and he is like really tired after the cow sale because it's the same thing. You never stop thinking. You're running numbers the whole time and you're listening and you're doing all this. And I think, again, going back to the mom thing, though, like, you're supposed to be able to do all the things, to have your hobby and your passion and your kids and your life and look good and do all the things. And you're not supposed to falter. Well, that's a lot. And then there's anxiety that's built into that because if someone else can do it, why can't you do it?
So I see, that if someone else can do it, why can't you do it? Because I mean, I was one of them, and I can't say that I won't be one of them again because who knows? It's a lot of pressure at whatever point you're in your life. At the end of the day, as you you take the next step in your writing and you step up going to, you know, association shows and you climb that ladder. You know what I'm saying, Remy? I don't know. How do I say that better? As you step up your writing and you start going to bigger shows, the amount of pressure that gets on you is a lot more because the entry fees are probably higher. There's more people in the class, so you have to go through more rounds. And I think you mentioned something about this earlier about when it's no longer fun when you're writing the big checks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an expensive hobby, so you're writing big checks and you're trying to smile and grit your teeth and be like, but I made it to the second round.
And then it makes you ride worse, right? If you're worried about it. So so we go to the Calgary, or we haven't gone the last couple years, but we've gone to the Calgary Stampede a couple times and we've done decent. And I remember going the last time that we went, I told James, I go, if we can't afford to lose this money, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And it's a big amount of money. Like, it costs a lot of money to go up there. You're up there for a long time on top of all the money that you lose at home, right?
Like, for those of you who this isn't your hobby or passion, and just so we can put it into perspective for you, you could buy your kid their first school car with what some of this costs.
Yeah, so like for us, like we're looking at just entries and hotels for Calgary is about $10,000.
Yeah.
And that's just me and James riding. That's before kids were riding. And then you lose the income that you would have at the house. And usually it's like the beginning of July. So as far as the cattle go, there can be death loss. There can be a lot of stuff just because if it gets over 115 and no matter how good your guys are at the house, you're not there to take care of the cattle. So you lose. It's a big money thing. And I remember telling him, I go, if we can't afford to lose this, I don't want to go because I don't want to go and spend 10 days to 2 weeks out of my life being stressed out. And I don't say that flippantly, like, oh, well, we can just spend this money. No, we have a good shot and we're gambling on ourselves, but I don't want to be under pressure, or just don't go, because I don't need to be miserable. Our kids don't need to be miserable. You don't need to be miserable. And that year was actually one of the most fun years we had, because you went there with a different mindset and we rode better.
I had a thought. Oh, I feel like that is a very valid deal. But some of us are cut out. Like, I don't ever feel like you should go enter a show unless you know what the cost is and you're prepared to lose that money, because a win is not always guaranteed.
No.
So you have to be prepared to lose the money. That's how I've always felt. And I would probably not be prepared to lose the money. But I am also not, like, I would not put myself in the hardcore competitor category. Now, I probably would. My husband is in that category, so he can block out the cost. Like, he might think about it, but it doesn't, like, taunt him and torture him. Where
yeah, it becomes like a cost benefit analysis. Like, my entry is going to be this, but I can win that. Okay. Like, I'm willing to take that gamble on myself because I think I can go win on it.
But I think that's the level of, like,
it comes back to, so like, this is a whole general point, right? And I tell my clients, especially, like, I have a client right now that hasn't had fun in a while. Not that she doesn't have fun, but this isn't her passion like it used to be. And part of it is she kind of, her level of riding got higher, but it's one of those things where, did you get into this to be competitive? Are you just a competitive person? Now, by nature, I'm competitive, but there's other value to me in it as well, right? Like, I like other things about it. So if you're just in this to be if you're just in horses to be competitive and you lose that spark, maybe move on. And that sounds horrible because you have this big investment. But if you were only here because you wanted to go compete, there's way cheaper things that you can compete at, or at least, like, we talk about out here in terms of golf or tennis clubs. I'm still cheaper as a trainer than those guys are playing a country club every month. Still cheaper. It is still cheaper to have a horse out here than it is to do those things. But the thing with golf and tennis, when you're done with it, you can put those things in your garage and walk away for a little bit. You cannot walk away. You don't have to feed it. You don't have to see it. You don't have to pay someone to ride it. You don't have to go ride it. So if you're just in horses to be competitive and you lose the spark, if you can't get it back, move on. Now, the opposite is, a lot of us are crazy horse girls that really like horses. So how do you find that passion again? Well, maybe it's by not competing for a little bit, right?
So I have a woman that I've given lessons to for a couple. The flies are assholes right now because they're cold. They're trying to.
I was like, how do you have ours die after like 50? They're like, peace out, too cold for me.
Yeah, well, you have California flies. We have Minnesota stubborn. So they're all trying to find warmth right now, and they are just crazy. They're anyway. So I have this woman that I've been giving lessons to for a while now, and I just love her. And she was struggling with, like, she's the greatest horse mom ever. She loves her horses. She takes amazing care of it. She listens to our podcast religiously, so a shout out to her. But she came to me one day and she's just defeated because she has been doing it for she's been, like, very consistent on the lessons with me, other people, and she's been putting in the time, but she just started this, like, she's very young into it, or new into it, like a year. And it's hard because I don't think that she's placing maybe like she wants to. She wants it though, and she is getting there. I can see it. But I said, Jess, I feel like you need to start thinking about, why did you get into this in the first place? Why why did you start the horses? And I know that they started it because they wanted to do something together as a family. Yeah. And there truly isn't anything that you can do that is, as a family, that is better than horses, in my opinion. And I'm pretty biased about that. But
well, especially when you think about team penning and ranch sorting, that really is a whole family affair, right? Like, depending on what level you want to go to, you can ride with your kids. And it was like, I think in our first interview that we did like a year and a half ago, you go, the next season of your life is coming when you'll run with your kids. And that is the best. But you can't do that. Even in roping, you can't do that at the same level that you can with penning and sorting.
Yeah. So I think that the main point there, people, is to remember why you started riding in the first place. And when I lost my drive to do it, because the other thing that I'm not telling you either is Remy does pressure. I do not. I do not do pressure. And I think I didn't grow up with it though either. Like for me, it was I wanted to ride. My parents they were the parents who put me in good hands of people who could help me go further faster. But I never was coached by somebody who put me under a ton of pressure. And maybe I needed more of that, but now as an adult, I don't like it. And the more pressure you give me, the faster I'm going to crumble.
No, and I think the other thing too is like, and again, like this, I know we repeat this every time, right? But it is your circle. If you're not having fun and you're not surrounded by people that build you up, um, find better people. Because no matter how strong you are as a person, like, and I say this as someone that is sometimes very strong and other times very weak, no matter how strong you are, if you're at a show and it's not going well and it's not fun, like, you got to be, you at least have to be able to laugh at yourself and have a good time. And if you're not surrounded by those people, or at least a few of those people, it isn't any fun. And this is another point, like, that I think when people look from the outside, especially at open riders, and even for me, like, your winning season will come to an end and it'll come back. Like, that's what I was joking about. From a year ago, July, I couldn't buy a win. Like, I guess technically I won the quarter horse world and I was like second at play with the pros, but like, those are the last kind of things that I'd won after that. And there's like 2 years there where I could not lose. Whether I rode good or bad, I couldn't lose. And I finally won again in Reno, but like, I had to be old enough and mature enough to realize, like, it's just not my time right now. And I can't change what's worked for me in the past chasing that win. I got to just take a deep breath and realize I'm doing everything right. It's just not aligning. But I think when you're newer into the sport or you're burnt out, it's really easy for it to be like, well, this is just another thing I can't do right, or this is just another thing that's gone wrong. And it's not really true. Like, some things just don't work out like you want them to.
I had to go outside of, well, I suppose my circle. I had to go outside my circle by myself and get out of the area when I was trying to find it back. And I did that to see, well, part of the reason that I quit was the pressure. The other part was it was just easy not to ride anymore because it was a lot of work with everything else, with all with all the mom duties, with all the, full-time job duties. It was just so much work. It was easier not to ride. Um, which if you love something, that's a piss poor excuse. But nobody can tell you, like, you have to come to terms with that on your own. And but so when I decided I was going to do it again, it was at the hand of my husband, who was like, "I know how much you love this. You've got to go do it." And then when I finally agreed, I'm like, "I think I need to go away from you to do it." He would kill me right now. Um, so
But
I
it's,
did.
I think it's one of those things too. I talked to someone privately and she was like, it doesn't matter when I get better. This little group that I've been around doesn't want me to get better. They can't notice the improvement. And I think you get trapped too in that. It's almost like a small town issue, right? Like, well, you'll never be any different than you were. Well, that's not true. If I've been working and improving my game and making my horse better, then I recognize that I'm better, and I think
Well,
sometimes we get trapped, or what happens is, like, that's what they see you as, right? They see you as their mom. They don't see you as the competitor. Oh,
well,
no.
Brandon wanted me to get better. He wanted it more for me than I did for myself. And I wanted to be better more for him than myself. And I think it was just like so much pressure. And that has taken me our whole married life. And plus, before we were dating, to figure this out. And trust me, folks, like it is hard. That is hard. But what I found is when I went off by myself, Remy, it it was I'm not going to say it was easier for me, but alls I focused on is the things that I loved, and I focused on it for myself. So it did get a little easier. And now how I've dealt with like writing, because I'm not a person who like I'm the one who grew up with my mom shopping off of the clearance racks and that. And that carried on. I swear to God, it's like a curse. Even if I had lots of money, I don't know if I could go buy something off of a wall because I would feel like really bad about not looking at the clearance rack first. I don't, and so it's a, I feel like I carry that over with me into all of this. Where was I going with this? What was I saying before this? Because I totally just lost my train of thought.
I think that you were going to why you want to be where you want to be at riding
Oh,
too, you
right.
know.
Thank you for that. These flies are attacking me and it like got me off my train. Um, so I'm like for me to spend $250 on an entry fee or something more than that, not happening, Remy, for me because it would just be too much pressure. I mean, I would mentally blow it before we even stepped into the arena. Uh, Maybe at some point in my life I would be better about that, but right now I probably not. And so with that being said, I just reined her back in and I started going into classes where I felt comfortable and riding with people who I felt like I could be a strong partner for. And I feel like my plan of attack has really worked. And I ride with my kids.
No, I think it does come back to the competitive drive and what you think you're made of, right? So this is a personality issue. So when I won the truck a couple years ago in Vegas,
Everything's a personality issue for us.
I mean, it is though, but it's one of those things, right? So, I actually thought someone else won it. I congratulated him because I tallied the points kind of based on the app, and I thought it was second. So I thought I won a saddle, and I heard the announcer Rowdy like on the microphone, like, "Are you sure? We need to really sure of this before we announce it." And I was like, "Man, maybe I didn't even end up second. Maybe I ended up third, and I really don't want to get any cooler." Like, I rode my ass off. And same thing for that, right? The first go, I made 11 out of my 12 teams back because you could ride 12 times for the truck. 11 out of the 12 teams. So I was like, all right, now I just have to survive. And the cattle got really tough. And I stayed in the hole most of the time on a big ranch horse, like not even our fanciest horse, but super gritty, super nice ranch horse. And then we get into the finals and I safetied up a little bit more. And I safetied up on one run that would have guaranteed me the win, but the cattle weren't great. So I safetied up and they announced that we've tied for the truck and you have really kind of three options. You can both pay in to get a truck, uh, which I didn't want to do because I didn't want to spend any more money. You could buy one of the other ones out. Well, he didn't want to buy me out of my share. Or, hi baby. Clay, I'm on my thingy. Hey, out. Out.
Oh, it's okay. Life's happening.
Come here, babies. I know, but I gotta naked babies. Or this is my baby Clayton. Or you could have a runoff. And so you could either get paid $20,000. Really, what the buyout was $20,000. Or you could have a runoff. Well, I was playing with house money. I thought I won a saddle. So I was like, yeah, let's run it off. Awesome. We'll run this off. It'll be great. And someone walks up to James and they go, why wouldn't you just tell her to take the money? He goes, I've seen that look on her face. She had this one hands down. No one was going to touch her for it. But it's the same thing. Like I had full confidence. Like, yeah, I wasn't going to lose anything, but like I had full confidence I was going to go win. And you have to find that again too, because I used to be a bad bitch and then I wasn't. I got to where I doubted every single thing I did in that pen. And then I had to come back to winning, like figuring out how to win again. But again, that's a competition. That's how it was for me. I've never lost my love of horses because, and I read this thing, yeah, it's being shared a bunch yesterday. But it's like, if you're having a bad day, go cinch up your horse, go ride your horse, go outside. Because when you're riding, those horses really are a reflection of what you're doing. So I will tell you, if I'm having a really bad day, I can't, like a really bad day, I have to go ride a broke one. I can't go ride one that needs worked on. I need to go and get on one and lope some circles. And if I can figure it out, well, then I can go get on one I need to work on. If I can't, I do no service to those horses by riding that day, because all of my mental problems are going to transfer through my butt, through my hands, through my feet to my horse.
You're going to end up having a fight in your hands.
Because if you go looking for one, you can find one every time.
Yeah, I think the ticket and the key for me on this whole finding the fun again was the fact that I quit for a while. And I wish I could, it feels like it was so long ago, but it was definitely after Bronson, and he's 10 now. And I wish I could remember how long I actually kind of sat out for, because I did sit out for a while. But for me, the key was to rein it back in, like reevaluate. And I feel like I've never been one to ride every single class, like from the open all the way down. But I feel like once I got back my feet back underneath of me, I feel when once I reevaluated like the classes that I was going to ride. And the other thing I had to reevaluate, you'll be able to speak to this too, Remy. You have to start looking at the people that you're riding with, or like the people who ask you, because otherwise I feel like you get so frustrated. You want to ride with everybody, but I have to start looking at it a little differently. Like, are my weaknesses, is that this person's strengths, or vice versa? Is my strengths that person's weakness? Because I need to be able to help this person out and they need to be able to help me out. Are we going to communicate well enough together? And am I going to be a strong enough rider for them?
Well, and I think there's a lot of chemistry in between human partners and then the horse partners too. And I've talked about this before. Like, you can have the nicest animal out there, and if there's no connection between you, unless you're an open rider, like, and not even all open riders can do it, but unless you're an open rider, it will show in the animal. Like, it will show long term. So there has to be a lot of chemistry, and I do a lot of my work at home, right, with my partners. I'm hard on them here at the house in the practice pen, and then we get there, like, it either comes together or it doesn't. Well, we did the work at home, and you see a lot of guys try and force the issue when you're at a show. Okay, that's great. Like, not only do I now have real entry fee money on the line, now I got more pressure on the line. So it's I think you have to pick. And the other thing too is I might ride some weaker teams because they're just more fun. Like, I know that person, if it goes wrong, it's just going to be a good time. And
but at that point though, you're leading them, Remy.
Yeah.
You're the stronger rider. So now your job to lead them into success. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think that's what I'm saying. Like, when I reined it back in, it was easier for me to probably ride down, where I got to be the more dominant rider, because I always get bossed around. So now I get no, I'm kidding. But you know what I mean? Like,
no, and there are some people that like, and I talk about it a lot in our training program, because we make so many runs with these guys. They're really good. Our clients are really good at riding up. Now, the guys that are going to be truly successful can ride up and down, because they're not just a piece that you're getting to move for you. They've taken all the knowledge and then they can apply it back down the scale, not just up the scale. And, but a lot of this is just about competing. So going to the bigger issue, which is, how do you find joy in whatever you're doing, right? And a lot of us have tried to make a business out of what is essentially a hobby. So
I do find joy in that, though.
I mean, I do too, but like, I know I was talking to another friend of ours that's now started training horses, and that's she goes, how do you avoid the burnout? And I was like, it comes and goes, but part of it is you have to find joy in loping circles and going and working a cow and brushing on your horses and doing all the things, because the people in this business will wear you out. In any business, it's not just this business. In any business, you talk to anyone that's self-employed or has to deal with the general public long term, they all have the same complaints. This isn't unique to horses. And so I did tell that girl, I said, ride the horses you want to ride. And if you're not starving, don't ride the ones you don't want to ride, and learn how to fire clients. And I say that, and I've never really fired clients. So I try really hard to make it work. But you have to know your worth, and you have to know what you're capable of, because that makes it a lot easier for you to find joy in the animal, because now you're not going to be upset with the animal over its owner.
While I was preparing for today's topic, I was just thinking about different people and different aspects and functions of life. And in this, and two of the people that I was thinking about are Serena and Venus Williams. Look at the level of tennis they played for how many years? Pretty much their whole life.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were in training since they were little, tiny. Do you know how overwhelming and probably not fun that level is? Because they got to a point where perfection was just expected.
Yeah.
If it was anything less, it just wasn't good enough, and it probably made them feel super crappy about themselves after a while. It had to have taken the fun out of it for them, but they did it for so long at such a high level. Amazing athletes.
Well, and we talk about it too. It's when you're an open rider at what we do, you don't really get congratulated when you win, because you're supposed to win. And if you win, and great, you won, but people look for you to fail. And that's not fun either, to know that people want you to fail, right? They want you to see you mess up. They want to see you bobble.
Once again, folks, that's everything in life, though.
It is, but it's like you can't carry that chip on your shoulder. And some people do. And I will tell you, like, if you're riding to beat somebody, if you're playing tennis to beat somebody, if you're playing golf to beat somebody in particular, right? Like, that's who you need to beat. You'll never be successful long term. But if you go out there to do the best that you can do and compete against yourself, try and be better than yourself than the last time you were, or just go out there to have fun, you will find a lot more success in whatever it is you do. And that's
all I genuinely want. And
yeah.
For me, a huge success would be conquering the mental battle that I put myself through. And I think that I get better at that each and every day. And to be honest with you, quitting my job probably got me to that point mentally faster than anything, because I went from having, a steady income every 2 weeks, I was getting a paycheck. I went from having that for 17 years down to nothing, like nothing. And I was okay with it because I had to be in a good mental spot. And I feel like that being okay with that, pushing myself to be more, do more for the greater good of everybody around me, stepping outside my box, just trying my ass off at things that matter, period. Having that attitude because I'm no longer getting a paycheck, that attitude is carried over to so many different aspects of my life. And I think that it carried over into riding.
No, and I think like some concrete things that people can do to find joy in what they do again. It's like you do the everyday cowgirl camps, right? There's a whole world out there of people that don't want to really compete at the level that we compete at. So go find something that, like, I don't like to trail ride.
I hate it.
unless there's a cow out. Like if there's a cow out, I'm your girl. But I will say that, like for me, I like to go lope circles. I piece out and just lope circles all day. So go find something that you can enjoy doing with your horse. Remember why you bought the animal, and it's not.
Remember why you started.
Remember why you started, because, and then again, it comes back to that long-term versus short-term goals, right? Push yourself out of the box of whatever you're doing. Like if you pen and sort, go do a trail challenge. If you do a trail challenge, maybe try a sort, or go do something, do other things with your horse, because they're your partner, they're your friend. That's what they're supposed to be there for. And the other thing is, don't get caught up in, my arm is falling asleep. Don't get caught up in comparing yourself to other people. And that's really hard, right? But you can't compare yourself to other people because you don't know what they're doing. You don't know what they're spending. You don't know what time they're spending, right? Like someone might get leaps and bounds ahead of you, but you only have 2 hours a week you can devote, and they've got 20 hours a week they can devote. You're just on a different timeline. So it's really hard for people to, it's hard for all of us, but in the age of social media, it's really hard to not compare yourself to someone else's success. And then you're going to be upset by what the outcome is. No, go have fun with your horse. Go brush your horse. Go bathe your horse. Go walk around. Go sit in their stall. Let them love on you, because they aren't just a machine, And even if, okay, so if you want to do cars, it's the same thing. If you want to race cars, figure out why you wanted to go race cars, or figure out why you wanted to do whatever it is that you wanted to do. And it's difficult for a lot of people. But you can't compare. You have to go take concrete steps to finding your joy again. And then if you can't, you've got to move on.
One thing I learned, and I learned it for myself, and I'm learning it through the women that I help with everyday cowgirl camps. And that's that fun and confidence go hand in hand. When you find the fun again, you will find your confidence. Because it doesn't matter what you do in life, you have to have confidence in the arena, in your workplace, with your kids. You have to be confident, otherwise they're going to run you over.
Well, and when you're confident, you attract, oh my gosh, my arm. When you're confident, you attract more people to, like, the right people to you, right? You don't attract people that are trying to prey on your weakness. When you let that light shine from within you, you attract a lot of people that really see the value in you as a person, not just as a commodity, not just as something they can use. You invite them into witnessing how strong you can be. And that's very important. And again, when you find, you're right, when you're having fun, it's a lot easier to be confident. And part of it is because you don't care as much about what the outcome is. If you're having fun,
yeah, things will go so much better. Things will go so much better for you if you can.
That comes back to the anxiety conversation too, right?
It all goes hand in hand. Like everything that we talk about, folks, is it all ties in together somehow, some way. And I know we've said it before, but we'll say it again. Like, we have to work hard on this every dang day. Like, none of this stuff comes easy or naturally for Remy or I. We recognize and we work on it.
It takes practice. It takes practice. We're talking about someone last night, and one of my friends is like, man, I wish I had that guy's confidence. I was like, do you know what I could do with that guy's confidence? Because I'd be unstoppable. And it's not that I'm not confident, but this person is confident. And, I think as a mother, you get to where you start seeing other outcomes where before you didn't see them. And then, which makes you a little more cautious. And, but man, if you can have fun at what you're doing, or you really love it, it's easier to find the joy in it. And that's the thing. Find your joy and happiness in whatever you're doing. And it doesn't have to make sense to other people. Again, that goes back to comparing yourself. But when you try and make it make sense to other people, you'll start to doubt yourself. You don't need to doubt yourself. If you're not hurting anybody and you're having a really good time, who cares what you're doing?
And if you have lost the fun, rein it back in and reevaluate. I don't think the answer to finding the fun again is like jumping in with both feet and going full force. I think that's mentally exhausting, and you're probably going to find rock bottom before you find fun in that.
Yeah, because it's that same thing. It leads to, well, it's, it's like the pant loop thing, right? Well, this didn't go right. So this is like my whole day shot, this whole hobby shot. Well, maybe it's not. Again, long-term and short-term goals, reevaluate them. Why did you start doing this? Okay. That's a pretty simple answer. Maybe it's not for some people. For a lot of people, it's a simple answer. Where did I want to go with it? Did I need to go anywhere with what I was doing? Or could I just enjoy my horse and not do anything? Because as a horse trainer, and I harp on this a lot, we would like to see ourselves as artisans and craftsmen, and we are. I'm not discounting that. But to everyone else, we're entertainment money. So if they are not entertained, they will not continue to give you business, because a lot of clients want to have a pretty pony and go have fun with their horse and maybe go compete. Not everybody wants to go be an open rider, and that's fine. That's actually great, because it means they don't have to invest all this time and effort and energy. Now they're still going to invest those things, but they don't feel like a failure if they didn't reach that level, because really at the base of it, they just wanted to come have fun with horses and cows and enjoy an awesome animal.
Yeah, and instead of entering up full in multiple different classes or entering up full in a class, maybe instead of riding 6 times, ride 3 with your draw and 2 people that you feel really confident and comfortable riding with. Like I said, jumping into the fire and going full on is probably not the answer to finding your fun. Like, you'll hit rock bottom before you find the fun. And what I mean by that is, if you go and enter, like, I'm just going to keep entering up because then I'm just going to get better. If you are at a time in your life where it just seems like everything is not coming together, entering up full on every weekend, weekend and out, it'd be
Yeah, and then I think what you see
functional.
too is then you see people that are at that point and they're judging the guys that are in it full bore. Well, it's fun for them. It's not even about the money. It's them having a good time. So again, if you don't want to compare yourself to other people, don't judge other people for how they're having fun either.
Yeah.
Because like we have a lot of guys that'll ride, especially because the opens are handicapped now. They'll enter full in the open for a shot at riding with some better guys, and then you'll see them like have the same teams in the next 2 divisions because it's their friends and they have fun, but they're not going to ride full because they just want to go ride with the people they want to ride with.
Yeah.
And then the inverse is true. You see some guys that enter up top to bottom, but it's fun for them. It is fun. It's them not trying to force the issue. It's like, yeah, I can't get enough of what I'm doing. And try and emulate that happiness, because part of it is you got to fake it till you make it. Again, don't drain your checkbook, don't drain your brain, but
Yeah, exactly.
I do think, especially with horses, it's a big investment, and it's not. The hard part is like horse prices are ridiculous right now, but it's not that initial investment that costs you on a horse. It's the monthly in and out, that monthly care that costs you.
It's the care maintenance on
Yeah.
a monthly level for sure.
And so it's a big investment, and that's why
It's
I'm not.
still a lot smaller than a lot of hobbies are on a monthly investment. So
It's it is true, but it's a big investment. So I'm not saying just to disregard it right away, but if you can't afford it, or it's not fun long term, not just in the meantime, walk away from it for a little while. We've had clients walk away, and then the walking away made that they sold their horse, but they wouldn't sell their saddle because
come back
maybe
strong.
yeah, and they come back a year or two later and they're like, this is really what I want to do. I needed to step away to realize that this is what I wanted to do. And then other ones you'll run into in a restaurant. It's like, oh, you have horses? No, I don't even have a dog anymore, but I'm doing this, and that's fine too. Like, good
You
for
can have one
you.
of mine.
But it's good for you. That's awesome, but it's not for everyone. You know.
Well, Rem, I think that we're at an hour almost here, so we'll wrap it up a little bit. I hope that everybody took something away from today. If you are finding yourself at the spot where you're not having any fun anymore, because horses are a beautiful gift from God, and um, they're helpful in so many ways. So we hope that you took some good things out of here. If you have questions or just want to reach out to us with something, we'd love to help you as much as we can. Remy, one thing I did want to share with you that I found from this last week, I found it actually yesterday when I was working on what we were going to talk about. And it goes with our conversation from last week, which we discussed or shown some light on Suicide Awareness, Prevention Awareness Month. Women account for 36% of farmers and ranchers in the United States. We were talking about that last week, and I saw that number and I was like, my God, that is growing. It is rapidly growing. It's very cool. Remy, we talked earlier at the beginning of the thing, she's got her sweatshirts that dropped last week. Make sure to check those out. I head to the Top Hand Cowgirl tonight. Going to be a fun weekend. I think that's it. Make sure to subscribe and like us on YouTube, Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We appreciate those who have been following us and watching what we're creating. I think that's it. Everybody have a good week. Be bold.
Be brave.
Be humble. Bye, Ram.
Bye.